Okay, so now as we wrap up the three forms of linear equations, we're going to go back and learn how to convert between the three forms. And we've kind of already done this a couple times in a couple different ways, but now we're going to kind of formalize it all right here. Okay. Remember, we have three forms of linear equations. We have standard form, which is ax plus by equals c. We have point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And then we have slope intercept form, y equals mx plus b. And each of these three forms tell us different parts about our linear function. Now standard form is easy to find the x and y intercepts from. Okay, standard form, you plug in 0 for x to find the y-intercept, you plug in 0 for y to find the x-intercept. Standard form has some rules though. Okay, and standard form also tells us other information, which we're going to get to at the end of this lesson. The rules for standard form is that a, b, and c have to be integers. A, b, and c have to have a GCF of 1. Okay, so greatest common factor of 1, meaning they share no other common factors. And then a is supposed to be positive. Those are the main rules for standard form. The other two forms tell us information about the graph. And like I said, standard form tells us the x and y intercepts, and it tells us some other information as well. But it's not as explicit in the formula. Now point slope form is called point slope form because it tells you the point and the slope. The point in point slope form is x1 comma y1. Okay, so whatever's in that x1 slot and whatever's in that y1 slot here and here, those are going to be your the x coordinate and the y coordinate. And the slope is always m. Same thing in slope intercept form. Slope intercept form tells you a slope and an intercept. Which intercept does it tell you? It tells you the y-intercept. The slope is m and the y-intercept is b. So 0, b. Okay, now we want to be comfortable with all three of these forms. We already did graphing. You need to be comfortable graphing from all three of these forms. You also need to be comfortable working with all three of these forms and converting between each one, okay, which is what we're going to talk about right now. With this example, write the equation of the line that goes through the point 3 comma negative 8 and has a slope of 2/3 in all three forms. Okay. Well, where should we start on this one? We should start with what we're given. We're given a point, an x1 and a y1, and we're given a slope. Okay. X1 is 3, y1 is negative 8, m is 2/3. If you know a point and you know a slope, you should write it in point slope form. Okay, so point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay. We've done a couple of these already. What we're going to do is we're just going to plug in the values that we know. That 3 is going to go where x1 goes. The negative 8 is going to go where y1 goes. And the slope is going to go where m goes. And we're just going to plug those values in. So y minus y1. Okay. Y minus negative 8. Okay. Now again, instead of minus negative 8, you just write it as plus 8. So y plus 8 equals the slope 2/3 times x minus x1. x1 is 3, so x minus 3. Okay. So this one is done. We're in point slope form. Can't do anything else with that. You leave it in point slope form. Okay. So we'll do PS, point slope. All right, that's the first form. Again, the direction said to write it in all three forms. So we got the first form done. The second form, which we've also already done, is we're going to convert that point slope form equation to slope intercept form. So I'm going to rewrite point slope form, which is y plus 8 equals 2/3 x minus 3. And we've done a couple of these already. To convert from point slope to slope intercept, the first thing we want to do is distribute the slope. Okay, so we're going to distribute this 2/3 to everything in the parentheses. So it's going to give us y plus 8 stays on the left side, and then 2/3 times x is 2/3 x, and 2/3 times 3, okay, the denominator matches the number, that's just -2. So 2/3 times -3 is -2. Alright, and we're close. The last part of converting the slope-intercept form is you add or subtract the y1 value. In this case, since we have y plus 8, we're going to do y minus, or we're going to do -8 on both sides. And that gives us y isolated. So y equals form. Y equals form is also called slope-intercept form. It's when y is by itself. So y equals 2/3 x minus 10. And that is slope-intercept form. Okay. Now each form adds different bits of information. So that's slope-intercept form. Point-slope form, well, the original problem gave us the point and it gave us a slope. Slope-intercept form adds one more bit of information. So now we know a point, we know the slope, we also know the y-intercept. Okay. The y-intercept in this one is -10. And again, these equations are the same. These two equations, the point-slope form and the slope-intercept form, represent the same line. They're just written in different forms. All right, and then our third form, so we've done point-slope, we've done slope-intercept. Now we're going to convert from slope-intercept form to standard form. So I'm going to write out my slope-intercept form again. And as I do that, recall what standard form is. Ax plus by equals c. All your variables have to be on the left side. Okay. The x term has to be first, the y term has to be second, the constant has to be on the right side of the equal sign. So that's the first move I'm going to make. I'm going to move the x term, the 2/3 x, from the right side to the left side. So that goes away there. So now I'm left with -2/3 x plus 1y on the left equals -10. Now remember, standard form had some rules. You're not supposed to have integers as your coefficients in standard form. We currently have a fraction coefficient of -2/3. So what we're going to do, if you want to get rid of a fraction that's in an equation, you can multiply the entire equation by that denominator. Now also remember, one of the other rules was that a should be positive. The number in front of x should be positive. We have a -2/3. So we could get rid of, kind of kill two birds with one stone here, get rid of the negative and get rid of the fraction if we multiply the entire equation by -3. So we're going to multiply each of these terms by -3. If we multiply 2/3 times -3, it's going to give you +2. So 2x. If we multiply y by -3, it's going to give us -3y. And finally, if we multiply -10 by -3, we're going to get +30. Which puts us in ax plus by equals c form, okay, which is standard form, which is what we were looking for. Now make sure your a, b, and c values, your a value is 2, your b value is -3, your c value is 30. So make sure those don't have a GCF, and they don't. And again, what does standard form tell us? Well, standard form tells us the x and y intercepts easily. We already knew what the y-intercept was from slope-intercept form, but now we could throw in what the x-intercept is. The x-intercept, if we plug in 0 for y, or you could do the cover-up method and just cover up the y term, you're left with the equation 2x equals 30. So if 2x equals 30, that means x would be 15. Your x-intercept would be 15, 0. So each form tells us, another bit of information. So again, this is now in standard form. We started in point-slope form. converted to slope intercept by distributing and then adding or subtracting, basically isolating the y value. And we converted that into standard form by getting all variable terms on one side and then making sure the rules stand. No fractions, no GCF, a is positive. So you will need to be comfortable going in between each of these forms, going from point slope to slope intercept or slope intercept to standard form, and kind of writing equations in all three ways. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to convert from standard form to slope intercept form. So let's get a standard form equation out here. Let's say 5x plus 7y equals 35. Okay, so this one's in standard form. Since it's in standard form, we could identify what a, b, and c are. A is 5, b, always the number in front of y, which is 7, and c is the constant, which is 35. Since we're also in standard form, we can figure out the x and y intercepts pretty easily. Okay? So before we convert, we should try to extract as much information from this as we can. Well, remember, if you want to find the x-intercept, you plug in 0 for y. Or again, I like to do the cover-up method. Just cover up the y term, you're left with 5x equals 35. So your x-intercept is 7. For the y-intercept, you plug in 0 for x. Okay. Or again, what I like to do, I like to just cover it up. Cover up the x term, you're left with 7y equals 35. Solve for y, your y-intercept will be 5. Okay. All right, well, let's now convert that to slope intercept form. We got as much information from standard form as we could. Let's convert it to slope intercept form. The key for slope intercept form is that you have to isolate y. So the goal is to isolate y. Slope intercept form is also called y equals form because it's just y equals. Y equals everything else in the equation. So we're going to isolate y. So let me rewrite this form. 5x plus 7y equals 35. And again, the goal here is to get this y value by itself. Okay, we've been rearranging and solving equations for months now, so it should be fairly easy. All right, if we need to get that y by itself, the first thing we should do is to move the 5x over, because that cancels out on the left side. So we're left with just 7y. And then you got 35 minus 5x. You can't combine those because they're not like terms. But also think about what slope intercept form is. Slope intercept form is mx plus b. So we don't want to write it as 35 minus 5x. We instead should write the x term first and make it 5x plus 35, because 35 is positive over here. All right, and then the last step is, again, we're trying to isolate y. So to do that, we should divide by 7. It's currently being multiplied by 7. 7 times y. So we'll divide each term by 7. Okay. And this should put us in y equals or slope intercept form. So y equals by itself negative 5/7 x. Again, just leave your slopes as fractions. And then 35 divided by 7, which is 5. Okay. So if you want to go in slope intercept form, all you're doing is isolating the y value, the y variable. So this is slope intercept form. Well, what does slope intercept form tell us that standard form didn't? It tells us the slope. Okay, and slope's one of probably the most important part of a linear function. So the slope from our slope intercept form is the m value, it's the number in front of x, the coefficient in front of x. So our slope is negative 5/7. Okay. And slope intercept form also tells us the y-intercept, which we already knew. The y-intercept was 5.